It is no wonder Trump's remarks have been so divisive. After all, he has regularly used violent rhetoric to talk about his perceived adversaries. And this comes as we are learning more about secret plans for a MAGA takeover of the federal government if Trump reclaims the White House. Like most things in Trump world, it all leads back to Project 2025. Earlier this week, ProPublica and Documented released a report which uncovered shocking videos of private speeches delivered by this guy, Russell Vought. He is a chief Project 2025 architect and the president of the far-right think tank, the Center for Renewing America. Watch.
We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. We want, when they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down so that the EPA can't do all of the rules against our energy industry because they have no bandwidth financially to do so. We want to put them in trauma. We're trying to build a shadow office of legal counsel so that when a future president says, what legal authorities do I need to shut down the riots, we want to be able to shut down the riots and not have the legal community or the defense community to come in and say that's an inappropriate use of what you're trying to do.
Vought, who has remained a close ally of Trump since leaving government, went on to call these plans a response to the, quote, Marxist takeover of the United States. He also likened this moment in history to 1776 and 1860, you know, when the U.S. was at war or on the brink of war. This is the extreme framework Vought and MAGA leaders are pushing over and over and over again. And there is good reason to believe that this is much more than just rhetoric. Back in August, ProPublica and Documented shared previously unpublished training videos training future political appointees in a hypothetical Trump administration and offering advice on how to change the way the federal government functions. According to a ProPublica review, 29 of the 36 speakers featured in that training video or those training videos have worked for Trump in some capacity. And then there's everything we have heard from Trump himself. According to an NBC News review of Trump's public comments, he has called for the criminal prosecution of 16 politicians, 15 law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials just since he entered the 2024 race. He has also threatened the prosecution of workers of federal public health agencies, tech billionaires, and basically anyone who engages in what he has called, quote, unscrupulous behavior. But the question is, could Trump actually carry out unprecedented prosecutions? Well, NBC News asked current and former Justice Department and FBI officials and a group of legal experts that very same question. And they all said, yes, there are ways around the guardrails, even though doing so would shatter half a century of post-Watergate norms in this country. For starters, a new president appoints about 300 senior Justice Department officials, including powerful positions in U.S. attorneys who ultimately run offices across the country. All 300 of those appointees must be confirmed by the Senate, but multiple former officials said they fear Trump would install partisans who are willing to do his bidding. According to ABC News, one of the names on a draft list of people Trump might nominate as Attorney General is, you might recognize her, U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon. She is the one who, of course, threw out the classified documents case against him in Florida. Also on the list, this guy, Jeffrey Clark, a mid-level Justice Department official who backed Trump's claims of 2020 election fraud. Of course, you'll remember that days before the January 6th insurrection, Trump attempted, and luckily failed, to install Clark as the acting attorney general at the time. And speaking of acting attorney generals, Trump's more hardline advisors have discussed appointing a series of them since they wouldn't require confirmation from the Senate. In fact, under current federal law, an acting attorney general can serve up to 210 days at a time. And it doesn't end there. One of Trump's more far-reaching proposals, Schedule F, calls for the reclassification of about 50,000 civil servants across the federal government. In other words, they could be hired, promoted, and fired at the whims of Donald Trump and his inner circle. Even if Trump never took action on Schedule F, officials and experts said the likely outcome of this level of upheaval would be an even more extreme version of the chaos and legal battles that marked his first term. So what is the big takeaway here? Don't call Donald Trump potentially in a second term a comeback. Let's call it what it is. It would be a revenge tour that Trump and his allies have spent years meticulously planning and telling us about.